And Jack, you have the benefit of having been on both sides of the equation. Early entrepreneur, scratching and clawing to get things done, and then now obviously a very successful businessman.
To scratch and claw refers to a style of work or trying to accomplish something based on the idea of having very, very difficult obstacles or competition in your way. One way to imagine it would be a hill. You're trying to climb up this muddy hill, so you're scratching into the hill with your fingernails, and then you're clawing on clumps of mud, and you're doing what you have to do to get up the hill. And then if you mess up or whatever, then you slide back down the hill again, but you keep trying because you're so determined. Another way of imagining it would be that you're fighting off all of these wild animals that want to destroy you, and you have to just scratch and claw to get ahead in the world, and everybody's trying to knock you down and keep you from becoming successful. So this is used by people to describe their career advancement. People might say, well, nobody gave me any advantages in my life. I had to scratch and claw my way up, so I deserve everything that I got. So when Obama is referring to a company scratching and clawing its way to success, what he means is that the company had to overcome a lot of obstacles to become successful. There's a similar expression, it's called claw one's way to the top, which is similar. But in this case, it may suggest that maybe the person was a little victimizing. And scratch and claw can also mean the same thing, that maybe it wasn't so much of an honest rise as one based on defeating competitors or defeating people that were viewed as adversaries. So this would be a person who did reach a high level, but they did it ruthlessly rather than through fair competition. I really like the John Grisham books because the heroes are always very sophisticated people who had to scratch and claw their way to the top only to get knocked down the hill and then have to scratch and claw their way back. So it's really interesting when you get these high-level people and then they end up doing all these really mean, nasty things in order to get their way back. A lot of people think that Google was an instant success, but that wasn't true. They started off in a garage or a dorm room, just like a lot of other companies, and they had to scratch and claw their way to success for the first couple of years. Same with Dell Computer, they were not an instant success. The founders in these cases, both of these cases, had to devote their entire lives to building their companies.
Or do you think that you're still an early evangelist for this and you have to persuade others a little bit more?
Evangelist, in a literal sense, is a person who is promoting religion. Typically this would be Christianity, where the evangelists, they go out into the wilderness somewhere and they have this vision or revelation, and then they go out into the world and they try to convert people. Or if it's not to a new religion, maybe they're just trying to get people more religious on what they're already doing. So they castigate people for all the negative things they're doing, their negative thoughts, and they try to get them to think the right way. So this concept has been borrowed in the technology world mostly to describe a person who will typically work for a company, but they could also be independent as well. And what their job role is to try to convince people to use the technology. And then usually they know something about the technology, so they're not just prattling on about things they don't know. And this is typically the way that technology will be adopted, because if just one organization or one small group is using it, then there's just not enough mass for the technology to get accepted. And a lot of times it might take 10 or even 20 years to go through this entire process. So that's where the evangelist comes in, because they convince people to use the technology, and then once people start to use it, they start believing in it, and then it becomes more mainstream. So if evangelists will talk about these subjects with great enthusiasm. So it kind of might sound a little ridiculous. Some guy getting up there and saying, you really got to believe in this 128-bit technology. It's the greatest thing ever created. And you don't even know what 128-bit technology is or why it is so great. Or if you do, you're saying, well, what's wrong with 64-bit? I mostly use 16 and very rarely even use 32. So why do I need to go all the way to 128? So in this case, the evangelist is dealing with a skeptical or ignorant audience. So part of their job is through this excitement level to get people involved, even though it actually may not make that much sense, at least not to start. I actually used to work for Apple quite a number of years ago, and my job was actually being an evangelist. And I was supposed to promote multi-layered chips is the key to the future. Unfortunately, the technology wasn't there, and I didn't actually believe in it myself, so I didn't last very long, unfortunately. But if I would have gotten more motivated and exciting, I probably could have gone somewhere with that. My next job was to be an evangelist for e-learning on YouTube, which actually wasn't so bad because I believed in the subject. I'd been doing it myself, and so it wasn't that difficult to try to convince other people to do it too. So we had a calculus course, and we signed up 1 million people, and we did pretty well on it. And we got like 50 other courses we're doing, and hard to realize, but these things don't sell themselves. You got to get somebody out there and to really promote them. You need a good evangelist to get people to buy these things. My friend John, he is a true evangelist of vegetarianism. Every time we go out and I order a hamburger, which I do on purpose just because he's there, he looks at me like I just killed the cow myself. And I feel real bad. But I eat the hamburger anyway, just because the look on his face is so funny. ESL-fullsteamahead.com